Hi friends! It's Andriy Vasylenko, and this is what I've been doing for the last several years, dispelling all the delusions around Cliff Burton's bass parts, playing them for you and making bass steps. But in this video I'd like to discuss other misconceptions, what effects he used and what contribution Cliff made to Metallica. And the last one is pretty... So I'd like to have your opinion about that. I have proofs, I have evidences. So stay with me and you'll probably learn a lot of Metallica. So let's jump into it right now. Misbelief number 1. Cliff used Marley Power Fuzz Walk all the time being in Metallica. 2 years ago was released Cliff's signature Marley Power Fuzz Walk. It's been promoted as the pedal which he used at his prime, the years of Metallica. Actually, Cliff used it only to 1983 and then switched to Marley Power Walk Boost. And exactly Power Walk Boost Jason Newsted inherited. Proofs: Jason Newsted's interviews, this note, fans' memories, and pictures from 1983 to 1986 with no fuzz but boost captured. And now misbelief number 2. Cliff's main distortion pedal all the time was Big Muff. Actually, Cliff most likely stopped using Muff right after Kill 'Em All release. Its very last appearance might be on Pulling Teeth studio version. And we hear only Marley, with no Muff on the Live at the Metro. Proofs: tons of pictures from the period with no single Muff. Cliff could have kept it, but he got better distortions like Ibanez TS9 Tube Screamer. And all of that is shown in my book Untitled Cliff, The Legacy of Cliff Burton, which is now available for my Patreons, both in English and Spanish variants. And that would have not happened without one guy whom I call the keeper of Cliff's tone. His knowledge, his pictures, his tone testing are priceless. Thank you, bro. And we move to other misconceptions about actual contribution to Metallica of Cliff. Misbelief number 3. Cliff wrote only bass parts. He was extremely passionate about bass. Nevertheless, his musicality was too vast for just a few bass octaves. The intro from Fight Fire with Fire was initially written by Cliff on acoustic guitar, and then he came up with the bass arrangement. I think if Cliff was alive, he'd be improving his arsenal of musical expression, up to creating epic symphonic orchestration alongside Michael Kamen. Just imagine Orion performed this way. Misbelief number 4. Cliff's biggest contribution was on Master of Puppets album. Talking about Orion, this is recognized as the biggest masterpiece of Cliff Burton. Thereby, the whole Master of Puppets album often counts as the album with his most volumetric contribution. Actually, if to look at credits, Cliff wrote and co-wrote only 3 of 8 from the album. It's Orion, Master of Puppets and Damage Inc. Moreover, at this point, James Hetfield had learned practically everything that Cliff taught him about harmonies and stuff. So my conclusion is that the biggest contribution to Metallica of Cliff was on Ride the Lightning album. He co-wrote 6 of 8 songs from the album, except of Escape and Trapped Under Ice. So he participated in creating the best songs from this record. That was a turning point of establishing the Metallica we know, the alloy of brutality and melody. Cliff passed his knowledge to the band members, and Ride the Lightning was kind of test on how they learned his lessons. Another thing that influenced Ride the Lightning more than Master of Puppets, it's Cliff's love to reading. On the Beltals, The Call of Cthulhu and Creeping Death. Those lyrics were inspired by Ernest Hemingway, Lovecraft and Bible. I believe that Master of Puppets might lead to another burst of Cliff Burton's activity. Another misbelief: Cliff was not a witness of Injustice for All. You know that Cliff is credited only for To Live Is To Die. The band used some of his sketches to create the instrumental. But was that the only contribution of Cliff to Justice album? Injustice for All is the most complex album of Metallica. It was released in less than 2 years after Cliff Burton's death. Metallica got to write new songs only in October 1987 due to finishing other projects like Garage Days EP and Cliff and Mole movie. And those songs were ready in 2 months. So you're telling me that all the 60 plus riffs, perhaps the best riffs Metallica ever written, they appeared just in a few months, also trying to figure out a new pace of songwriting without Cliff. No doubts, James Hetfield is a riff writing machine. Of course, the grief and anger from the loss transformed into music. But still it's hard to imagine how they got this shit together so quickly. Back to then, most of riffs were being written on tour. Damage Inc. tour, which preceded Injustice for All album, lasted almost a year, and half of this tour was featuring Cliff, so we may assume that up to 50% of riffs from Justice Cliff might have heard. James himself told that some of the riffs had been hovering over big time. For instance, the main riff from Injustice for All song and progression B minor G major from One. And Blackened intro also is related to Cliff, at least emotionally, and as a reference to Damage Inc. intro, which also was reversed. So that's it, 5 misbeliefs about Cliff. And now, your turn. What do you think about that? Subscribe to my channels if you are a fan of Metallica and Cliff, and if you want to support what I'm doing, become my Patreon by pledging $1 a month or more. It's Andriy Vasylenko, it's Total Cliff, being metal.